up and it's recording now anyway. Welcome to another episode of Subconscious Realms International Roundtable. I'm your host, General Lee, and today my co-host is Zero from Demonosity and Beyond.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Zero, you okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm great. Glad to be here.
Sound, mate. Thank you. And we have got on from near Mexico, Denyse. Denyse?
Yes.
Okay,
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Hello, you all right?
Yes, sir.
Good. So, what, Denyse, right? What is it? I did a show with Lux on Friday night, it was, and he was on about 80 and some of the experiments that are going on linked to the LDS and Mormons. Are you familiar with any of that?
With the experiment?
Basically, from what I can make out of it, opening portals to other dimensions. That's what they've been doing at Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, the Skinwalker series. A little bit, yes.
So what's your take on it?
I find it's really interesting because it's in Utah and Mormons all around it. And then knowing that they have all this land in Florida and near NASA in Disneyland. Yeah. And there's another place that is very populated with Mormons near the Superstitious Mountains here in Arizona that has something also very similar going on as to Skinwalker with these strange beings and apparitions and, things that go bump in the night. Basically, people know not to go near there. It's not really cordoned off, but they seem to gather in these places that seem to have a psychic stain on them, if you will.
Right. Very
and I wonder and I don't know why or what that is. I know that they have very strong Masonic leanings. Yeah. And everything they do, their rituals seem to be very occultish, having been in their temples. I know, Zero, you're not that familiar with them, but they build these incredible temples, billions of dollars probably sunk into them. And inside of them are these rituals that are performed, like baptism for the dead, weddings, endowment ceremonies. They have very strange hand things that they do through curtains, like I said, it's very Masonic, and it's not very Christian, with all the rituals going on. And so I think that it has its leanings into the occult and supernatural and sort of guiding these people unwillingly into, I don't know, for lack of a better word, Satanism in a way. But they're into a lot of this stuff. Anyhow.
Okay, so just for my viewers, because they may not have listened to the episode that had you on Subconscious Realms, how long have you been involved with Mormonism?
I was raised in the church, and I stopped going. I refused to go when I was between 15 and 16 years old. I just put up a fight and said I wasn't going to go anymore. But up to that point, it engulfed every aspect of our life. Every single day you were getting hit from the side with something to do with Mormonism, whether it was family night, Sunday school, something called sacrament, which was Sunday afternoons. Every single day had something to do with church, not one day out of the week. And so it's very almost NLP hypnotic type brainwashing that goes on there, because you're inundated with it continuously.
Every day of the week?
Every single day of the week.
That's shocking, that.
So what would a woman's perspective on Mormonism be as opposed to like how I guess males are treated within the religion?
Well, there's a hierarchy for sure. They say that women are, the equal to the men as far as like the matriarchs of the household, but that's not really what happens. It's a very patriarchal society, culture. The women tend to kowtow to the men, and the men are the leaders in the home, which, I don't have a problem with that. As far as that goes. But it's with that comes a lot of abuse of power and a shit ton of sexual abuse. So
yeah, I know that like here within other parts of society, there is emphasis on the polyamority that is involved with Mormonism, and that that's basically one of the big things that stands out to somebody who's ignorant like me when it comes to that religion.
well, I mean, they do have there is a branch off that practices polygamy. I can't, women don't have a bunch of husbands, which is fine. I can't imagine having more than one mate, but the higher up you go, the more wives you have. It's a sign of prosperity as well in the offshoot, the FLDS church. Mormons, though, they stopped practicing polygamy in 1865 when Utah became a state. They outlawed it, but certain sects continued to involve themselves in polygamy. And in the Mormon church, they say that you can have, for example, if I have, lived a good life and gone to the temple, but I don't have a husband, I'll get snatched up in heaven. There's polygamy in heaven, just not here on earth. And then they can, become gods themselves and rule their own planets. So how does that sound?
Well,
do you think that Mormonism has any connection to aliens at all?
Good shout, that, mate.
Wow. Possibly because the beginnings, Joseph Smith was an occultist and a Mason, but he was going out into the woods and talking to beings in the woods by himself from the age of allegedly 13 or 14. So he actually got kicked out of the state of New York for his con artistry with magic stones. He would put a stone or something in a hat, and he would be able to read the stone. He allegedly saw an angel named Moroni out in the woods on the hill Cumorah. So, maybe Moroni was an alien.
Firstly, can I just say,
I mean, to say
Zero.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that entity?
No, not at all.
Right, okay. Sorry, Denyse.
No, that's okay. So, it does sound like, in a way, maybe Moroni was an alien. Wherever he got the idea that, men could be gods of their own planets. And one of the planets, I was never taught this too much in church, but I hear about it all the time, and I know it's somewhere in their doctrine, but something about the planet Kolob is where they're all going to, and they could be rulers of their own planets one day. I think that's, to me, as someone who leans towards Christianity, I think that's so blasphemous. I don't see, I've yet to meet a human that could come close to doing anything that has happened in this creation. How wondrous and beautiful and synchronized it is.
Yeah. Denyse, are you familiar with the research of cult of Jupiter Dollichenus? Hope I've not butchered that. No.
No.
Right, that's linked to Masons and Mormons. They worship Baal.
They worship Baal?
Denyse. Yeah, or Denyse Baal.
Okay.
Well, that
No,
doesn't sound Christian at all.
no. Yeah, sounds
It
awful.
does not, does it?
It's funny because it sounds like Mormonism has a lot of connections to more of a left-hand practice than right-handed.
Yeah.
Can you
I think
explain how that would be? How that's so?
Okay, so in the left-hand practice, it's basically the track to godhood. You believe in, well, not every left-hand practitioner believes what they choose to, but they believe in their own power and their own godhood. And so instead of kind of being one with the Abrahamic God, so to speak, they prefer to rely on their own power. And they may have connection with other entities, but they do not worship those entities.
Okay. Well, the Mormons worship they call it Heavenly Father and Jesus, and there's also Holy Ghost.
Mhm.
So, there is the kind of the Godhead there. But I really remember them really worshiping Joseph Smith and Brigham Young more than we talked about Jesus in that regard.
Okay, so my question, are you familiar with the Bible?
A little bit.
Okay. So, how does the Bible differ from the Book of Mormon, and where does it like veer off?
Actually, I think parts of the Book of Mormon are plagiarized from the Old Testament. The Lehi and Nephi sound a lot like Enoch and Noah, maybe Abraham. It differs only in that they've changed the names, like Nephi and Lehi. Laman and Lemuel the Lamanites are from the line of Cain, and I don't know if that's in the Bible. How God marked Cain, and he would be known, for murdering Abel. But the Lamanites, Laman, so Laman was cursed with dark skin so that they would be known. This is what Mormons believe, and that's part of the religion, and that goes back to the cultural beliefs of the 1800s. It has nothing to do with the Bible or reality. They incorporated that into the Book of Mormon, I believe. But so anyone with dark skin was cursed.
Is that why they kind of don't talk to people of color? Because I've never been approached by Mormons unless I was like working somewhere and they were buying something, if I was working retail or something.
Yeah, no, it's they wouldn't allow anyone of African descent, or I don't even know if they allowed Indians. But there was an Indian program. But anyhow, back to that, into the priesthood until I believe they received divine revelation in 1978, which allowed, because there was political pressure, I think. And it didn't make any sense not to have, anyone of color in the priesthood. So they allowed that, and to open up, I think they wanted more members, more tithing. Every Mormon pays the church 10% of their gross income in tithing.
It's crazy, crazy.
Right, and so that's why, Lee, why the church is like worth billions and billions of dollars, is it goes back to reaping a profit just from the members. But anyhow, yeah, it was, I never saw anyone of color attend church. And even when I lived for a short time in Utah, my sister married the only Black man in southern Utah And he was constantly being harassed and pulled over by people. If he would go out, he would have to bring a gun with him. It was just ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was just really kind of entrenched in the culture. I grew up in Southern California, and it was a little bit different. It wasn't like that. But in Utah, it was like, wow, it was a whole different world. It's culture shock.
There are similar elements in Texas. I used to live there, and
Oh,
it's a different world, coming from Jersey.
oh, I bet. Yeah,
It really is. It's crazy, especially coming from my side of it, because like, think if anything, there's been an increase in like Indian and Pakistani over here, but it's not a problem.
hmm
I think it's like everything, isn't it? Everything happens how it's meant to. And if they're meant to come over here, they're meant to come over here. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it's pretty blunt, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in Tucson from I don't know what's going on, Sudan and Somalia, and they come here and they set up housing and get them jobs and kind of into the community, and they're just beautiful people, really, just salt of the earth. So yeah, but the Mormons were another thing that they did was they had when I was growing up, they would have mostly Navajos come live with them during the school year. They would foster them, and then they would go back to the reservation. It was called the Lamanite program, and the it seemed like the I was friends with one Marie Singer, and she just seemed miserable the whole time. I felt so bad for her living with this. I mean, not just a white family. There's white, and then there's Mormon white. Like, it is just like the Wonder Bread Society. It is so white. And to have to, live in that culture, I can't imagine how awful that would feel. And they're all well-meaning people. They're really, the Mormons, it's a strange and weird religion, but the people are well-meaning. They're very, what's the word? They're very helpful. They help each other. It's a really, as far as community goes, they really support each other, help out a lot. And that part's nice. You feel like you have a sense of community, but it's a very weird community.
Well, it seems like in the background, it seems very elitist. Like you say, you got this Lamanite program, and it's like, oh, let's have these people over to like teach the savages how to be cultured.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just not cool. I don't know. And you see how the government uses like these Indian tribes to build casinos and launder money through them. And it's the same thing the Mormons are sort of doing with the Indians, bringing them in and having their foot inside the reservation. And I don't know, they use the Indians a lot, especially in the mid 1800s, where they would, there's Lee knows, we talked about the Mountain Meadow Massacre, and they set the Indians up. They blamed the Indians for this massacre, and the Indians had nothing to do with it, and then they would side with the Indians and say, let's fight against the federal government. You help us, we'll help you. And they would just throw them under the bus all the time, or under the wagon wheel. But they they use them and abuse them, and then they then they came in and acted like the hero of the day. They're going to save them, all those poor Lamanites, blah blah blah. So yeah, it is very elitist. And even growing up in that church, if your father wasn't a bishop or high up in the ranks, you're kind of looked down upon. You're sort of just mediocre peasantry. So yeah.
So you said there's like a good community. There are positive things about it. Do people get assigned specific roles, or are you allowed to kind of like do as you please, pick what your job is? How does that function?
So you are given roles. I mean, I went back, it was several years back, and all I wanted to do was just go to a sacrament meeting. And next thing I know, they're trying to get me to teach Sunday school. I just wanted to show up and listen to scripture. I didn't, but they're always giving you a job, whether you're a Sunday school teacher, there's Relief Society for women, and so they want you involved in that, or in the men, there's home teaching, visiting teaching, priesthood, and then they want to move you up the ranks, so then the top rank within, it's called the ward, is to be a bishop. And so the bishop is like the priest, and only men. And then they have two, they're called counselors that sit, next to them in the ward. And but everyone has a role, absolutely. They keep you busy like 24/7. It's to be a total Mormon is exhausting, because they have you. Not only are you working your, 9-to-5 job and taking care of a family, and they do have very large families, most of them. You're doing all sorts of things for the church, whether it's like going to the actual church building and helping clean, or organizing a function. They have a lot of functions. They're constantly doing things. Donating your time to, when I grew up in San Diego, we would go to the tuna canning factory in La Jolla, and we would separate donate our time and separate, the dark meat from the white meat. For the dark meat would go for cat food with the albacore tuna and the white meat. But, we'd spend the day doing that. They have farms, they have canneries, they have cattle ranches, they have, again, Lee knows this, they have about 1 million acres of land around the United States, and then they own 1/5 of the land in Florida, so they have like orange groves and things like that. But they do produce a lot of food for their members. They have, it's a welfare system, and so if anyone falls hard on their luck, they'll come in and, it's called the Bishop's Storehouse, I think. And, they'll give you everything you need to get through the week, whether it's like cleaning products all the way to, food. And the members help wherever you live, whatever they have going on, whether it's like picking oranges or apples or whatever, or canning things. And they would all donate their time and contribute. And when someone falls hard, they have the system where they'll help you out. They'll pay your bills temporarily. They will feed you. And so, I noticed a lot of members were coming in right before I was leaving Southern Utah. There were a lot of people coming from Mexico that would join because they knew they could get their bills paid. When they came, they would get food. And they like to drive that membership quota up. It looks good on paper for them. There's probably other reasons, but they really, there is a system in place to catch you when you fall. So that's kind of nice to know that, because they do think they're going to take over when society here in the United States collapses.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sorry, Denyse, me personally, from listening to that and from what I've learned, is, like you said, there's so much to offer, but me personally, I would take a wide berth. I would rather struggle.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it seems like a good way of hanging something over your head, like how there can be an abuse of power. Like, oh, you want us to help you out, or we helped you out when you were down in the dumps, so now you're going to do X, Y, Z for us.
That's exactly what
happens. That's what I mean.
That's exactly what happens.
So I have a question. When you were talking about quota and like the population and things like that, when it comes to counting their people, for example, with the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church has been known to even count among their dead, so that that their population, like their numbers, you don't really know their numbers. Do the Mormons do the same thing?
I don't think that they do, and I don't think they have to. They keep very stringent records. They're really big on genealogy and tracking your family history. And I think they're very proud of the fact that they are known for that. 23andMe and Ancestry.com get all their information from them. I think that they like the idea of, I'm sure I'm included. I don't go to church anymore, but I'm not excommunicated. So, and my sisters who don't go, they, except one, they're probably included, and as many others, you know, if you don't pull your records from the church, you're included in that populace. So yeah, I don't know that they have to exaggerate though, but they do want to build it up. And I'll tell you why, is to get that tithing money rolling in. So the missionaries that come knocking on your door, they're just recruiting. They're not going to tell you anything but all the good stuff, you know. Basically, they leave a lot of things out to people who are joining for obvious reasons, because it's it's such a fraud. It's such
Sounds
a
like
fraud.
a pyramid scheme. That's all.
It is, and it's, you know, it really is based on, the whole thing is really based on a man who wanted to basically womanize, you know, Joseph Smith. He was a serial womanizer, probably pedophile.
He was a nonce, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he was, and Brigham Young too, the guy that took over after him. They were out of control, power hungry, women hungry. There was nothing divine about any of them.
No, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of divinity, do you feel that anything about the religion that you were in gave you a connection to the God that you claim to worship?
No, I went in the whole other direction. In fact, I think it pulled me away from it.
So did those practices ever lead you to any experiences that you felt were not divine, or against what you wanted to get out of spirituality?
Well, I remember doing one thing that's interesting. You brought that up because, and again, Lee knows a little bit about baptism for the dead. We lived in San Diego. We would go to the Santa Monica Temple, and in Santa Monica. Anyhow, we would go there, and there was this giant fountain of golden oxen. I mean, God only knows what the thing was worth. I think there were 7 oxen in this giant fount. And you would be baptized for the dead. They would put you in like NY described it as a hazmat suit. That's what it felt like. And a name would come up on the teleprompter of someone who had passed away. And they would say the name and then dunk you. You were being baptized for someone who had passed, who, didn't have the choice of being baptized in the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ that was brought back to this earth. That's their thought process, anyhow. And it was it was so creepy. I remember it just really bothered me. It freaked me out. I felt creeped out by the whole experience. So I started looking really young. I started reading books when I was really young. I read Karl Marx, Maya Angelou, anything outside of, when I was like, I don't know, maybe 13 or 14, I discovered Mother Jones, and I'd sneak a subscription and hide it underneath my bed so my mom wouldn't see it. Anything that I could find about the outside world and what was going on, because the world I was living in didn't make any sense to me. It wasn't adding up. And I got into anything that was like witchy, Ouija boards, tarot cards, any of that stuff, astrology, wherever I could find some meaning, you know? So it leaves you very hungry for true connection and meaning.
So you sound like you have the Christian beliefs, but you said that you read up on the occult. How has your spirituality changed since you've read up on those things and you decided to kind of like move away from Mormonism?
So I was a teenager then, and when I sort of started reading any of that stuff, occultic, and I'm really not super, what's the word, knowledgeable about it, but I would say, embarrassingly, it was probably Wicca that I got into. And so just creating my own spells, making up sigils, things like that. So now I'm on the fence about all of it. Like I'm open to certain things, because I feel like now I'm just sort of in limbo. There's so much information out there that I'm trying to take in as much as I can and sort of suss it out. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't close my mind to anything. I like to keep it open. But I'm not like a born again Christian or anything like that, but I do, you know, tend to lean into the Bible. I feel like that's like a great book of, you know, history and knowledge. Yeah.
Me personally, I think there's more to it than what we're made out to believe. That's just my opinion. Because I'm not religious whatsoever, and I never will be. And that's because I think it's all a huge misconception for, oh, what's the word now? I say control.
Yeah. So you feel like organized religion is just a way of controlling the masses?
Yes, 100%, without any
And
shadow of doubt.
yeah, this is true, but I don't think that like real Christianity and a connection to God is as sacred as it would be to me. This is my opinion. I think it's
Possibly, yeah.
It's a sacred thing, and it's just between you and the Creator. You don't need to go to church. I'll just sit and watch the birds and give thanks, you know, for just nature, and 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 I think that, you know, just there's so many beautiful things in the world that we can be thankful for whoever created us. I don't know if it's Yahweh, God, or you know, Elohim, or Enki or Enlil. I don't know, but whoever, you know, I think it's to give thanks and to keep that sacred connection. That's something that is between you and the Creator. And you know, the Pope coming in between, the bishop coming in between you, men coming in between you and the Creator is disgusting to me. People telling you what you should think and how you should worship in these giant temples when people are on the streets, you know, all this money that goes into this place of worship when we could be helping other people on some level is such a waste to me. It's so blasphemous too.
Yeah, I get that.
That's not what
I
you know, I don't think whoever this Christ person was, that's not what they did. They didn't judge. Jesus didn't judge. He stopped, you know, people from stoning the prostitute. He cared about everyone except for the money changers in the temple is where he flipped his lid. So
yeah.
understandably.
Yeah, I get that.
And
It's just to me,
they're all money changers in the temple. That's what they all are. Every single church, that's all they are.
the perception of everything is
Well,
completely
I feel like
different than what it's made out.
like
Zero, mate.
no, you're good. The truth is in the history. You know, like if you have an understanding of the history of religion, you know, a lot of it is due to, political power. Back in the day, the kingdoms were heavily governed by the church. You had theocracy, and they did whatever, they took whatever they wanted and things like that. And then, even with the Bible, like you had kings, like the King James version. If this is supposed to be God's word, why is King James' name on it? It's because the church didn't want him to do what he was doing. He said, you know what, I'm gonna make my own branch of Christianity. I'm a
Exactly.
make my own version of the Bible. And it was around that time, I believe, that people were trying to translate the Bible, and the Bible was never meant to be in the hands of laymen, like the common person.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well,
Yeah.
okay, if people are trying to translate the Bible, we need to hurry up and do it ourselves so that they get a version that we can use against them, to keep control. And, I feel that, and no disrespect to anybody's, belief or anything, that Christianity takes away from a lot of the other cultures. Because if you look at Roman Catholicism, which is basically the beginning of modern Christianity, they were going around conquering different places, putting churches over other cultures' spiritual areas, and they were absorbing their culture so that it was easier to get the people that they conquered to be Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spoken to priests before, and one priest told me that Christianity, when it first began, is nothing like modern day Christianity. Like, they were very Gnostic.
Right. Yeah.
And so I do believe in the fact that you need to read your own, what you consider your holy scripture. You need to figure out, interpret it for yourself and learn to
Right.
think for yourself.
Right. Do you think there's a difference between the Jesuits and the Catholics? I feel like the Jesuits really kind of had their way with the Bible and infiltrated a lot of these organizations.
I personally think that everybody's had their way,
Yeah,
like
that's
there's
true.
nobody who was
for
innocent.
sure.
And the thing about the Bible is, if you read in Revelations, in the last scripture of Revelations, this is why I stopped subscribing to Christianity. It says, if anything is added or taken away from the book, that the people who did that would be cursed.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have all these sects of Christianity who have their own kinds of Bible. You have the Apocrypha, which was removed from the Bible. And, everything is to fit somebody else's narrative. So, if everybody has, kind of tweaked the Bible, so to speak, then we don't have a perfect picture of what really went on during those times.
No.
Like, I don't really believe that all of the Bible is historically accurate.
Mhm.
I believe that a lot of the Bible was written from a patriarchal standpoint. And if you look at other religious cultures and belief systems, a lot of them relied heavily on the divine feminine. I was even reading something the other day that when it came to, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, well, the Holy Ghost was supposed to be the wife of God, but nobody talks about that.
But
Like
that was a
Juno
Lilith.
and Hera. Well, you know what? That makes me think of what you said, that Satan is a woman. I listened to the podcast you did with Lee, and I was like, oh my gosh, does that make sense? What do you Is Satan? How do you feel about that? Is Satan is a bitchy female?
No, I mean, like, I wouldn't call her Satan. Satan is just a title for adversary. I believe that anybody who is adversarial towards Christianity in some way, and that's just basically even thinking for yourself, is considered satanic to Christianity.
Okay.
So, you know, she's gone by many names. I kind of just have my own names for her, but she's the epitome of femininity. She is a primordial being, you know. Sometimes she can be chaotic, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of like when things get too orderly, in almost like a dogmatic way. You know, you need that chaos to break things up, or
True.
you need that chaos to become strong because you need a backbone in order to fight
Yes,
against the
polarity,
status quo
right?
when things are making things stagnant. So if you understand how to look at the being that is known as, you know, the devil or a Satan, then you would understand that there is a proper place for her in our existence, and it's
Right.
not a negative one.
I can get with that. That does make sense to me. What was I going to ask you? Slipped my mind. Do you have any questions, Lee?
Yes, I have
Oh,
many.
good.
To me, right. Fuck. Right. I've got a couple of angles to it. Right. Having the the grip to everything is what you actually believe. Because me, I think if your intention is different to what's actually mean, that's completely different. And like my intention will be, fuck, they don't deserve to be religious, but they claim to be religious. There's nothing religious about hurting people. Nothing,
Right.
nothing at all religious about hurting people. And that is all they seem to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of really horrible people that hide in churches because the people in the churches are so trusting and kind of naive and almost innocent in a way.
It's just bullshit in it, in Denyse. It really is.
What? Yeah,
It
it
is
is.
a false sense of security. It is
It's
a load of
damaged so
bullshit.
many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
What
that is
do you
why
think?
when people say like, "Oh, yeah, the dark side," what is the dark side?
Well, we need the
Exactly.
dark
What is it?
side to get to the light.
Exactly. It's like the dark side, right?
Serves a purpose.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. But right now I'm kind of knee deep in this Utah satanic ritual abuse scandal that's going on in the state of Utah right now that has got
Yeah.
the governor involved and the president of the church. So what do you think, Zero, about people who say they worship Satan and they, you know, practice ritual abuse and things like that? How do you feel about how they're usurping the idea of what Satan really is?
Like their intention, maybe.
Right.
I feel that if you abuse the name of a certain entity, and that entity has pride in, you know, it's you know, like who they are, like eventually you're going to reap the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I in my practice, you know, since I'm a demonosifer, I've worked with many different entities, both considered demonic, angelic, whatever, dark and light. And I've never had any of these beings tell me, oh, go rape a person or go kill a person or I need a human sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I personally do not agree with that. I don't agree with hurting children. I don't agree with forcing people to believe in a certain way. And so, like, I believe in exposing those things, and exposing
Absolutely.
anybody who abuses power. Because
Yeah.
I agree with the fact that, you know, I understand that life is not like, rainbows and unicorns and stuff. And like, you do have to defend yourself. And there is a necessity for violence at times. But it's all within reason, for your own survival, your own protection. But just going around hurting people, for the sake of spirituality or ascension or getting power, I think that's the coward's way out.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Sure.
Gosh, I have so many thoughts swirling around in my head about this too. It's kind of a relief to hear your take on Satan and Lucifer and how they really do fit into the scheme of things in a
To me,
natural way.
it's a different perspective completely.
Well, see,
And
the
that's
thing
why.
is, one of the reasons why I started my channel was, a lot of people, they try to label people. So I would probably be labeled as a left-hand practitioner. And in our society, left-handed practitioners are seen as insane, dangerous, just striking out at whatever, malicious all the time and stuff like that. They're seen as extremists. And that's not the case whatsoever. Like, what was it? I think there was a quote by, was it John D? And he was talking about how it's not the magic of summoning demons or talking to these demons that's evil. It's the evil men who make use of the magic in an evil way.
Yes. Yeah.
Like magic is a tool. And it's just like, despite what the spirit tells you, okay, the spirit can tell you whatever. They can tell you some crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's your choice whether or not you want to do it. The people who blame everything on Satan, Satan's influencing stuff, you still have a choice because you have free will.
Exactly. Yes, I agree with that.
100%.
So, it's like, if I've come upon a spirit and they told me something I don't agree with, then I'm going to have a disagreement. Like, even if I have to have a fight, like, I don't worship anything to the point where I can't, like, I don't worship anything at all. I don't consider myself a worshiper. But like, even if I was worshiping something, that doesn't mean that I can't disagree or think for myself at certain times.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the creator? That how do you, what is your thoughts on this realm?
Well, if you study I personally believe that this whole multiverse was created by many different entities. If you study the history of the Bible and Judaism and Hebrew, in Genesis, when it was talking about God creating the earth and stuff like that, well, the word that was used for God was mistranslated. It was really plural, but it was made to be singular later on when it was translated to English. And even at the beginning of Genesis, he said, "Let us." Well, who is us? Who is us?
Them. Yeah.
And a lot of people, they just in Christianity, they don't ask these questions because they're taught not to question anything.
Mm-hmm.
that it's heretical. And
Yes.
so, because of learning about the true definition of the word that was used in Genesis, as well as, my personal experiences, I believe that it was really kind of like a team effort as opposed to just one creator God.
Well, wouldn't that make more sense in a way when you think about all the layers to this existence? Yeah, interesting.
Well, it makes sense to me because like there is so much variety. It's like even with variety of people in the Bible, the Abrahamic God chose the Hebrews, who later on became the Jews. And it's like if he really created everything, why would he have the Hebrews go around committing genocide to like all these other different kinds of people if they were supposedly his?
Right.
What about Zoroastrianism?
Well, they say that Zoroastrianism is like it's part of what Christianity was inspired by, because
So it came from
Zoroastrianism is kind of where the idea of good versus evil came from.
that would make sense with like when you got like events such as Ariman
Yeah.
and Lucifer stroke Jesus Christ as being one and the same. But you get people looking at that way and they look at it in I fucking don't know how to explain it. Their own perspective.
Is Lucifer just a word for knowledge? Is Lucifer
I think it is.
a being? Isn't it?
Well, in the Bible, Lucifer was just known as a falling star, and they say that it was in reference to a certain king that needed to be humbled. However, I feel
Zero,
that what's up?
Sorry, mate. Was that also Jesus Christ?
I've never really seen anything or read anything that had connection to Lucifer and Jesus Christ.
Okay.
So I can't really say anything about that. However, I know that the story of Prometheus sounds a lot like Lucifer. And I also feel that Lucifer may also be a thought form, because a lot of people started saying, oh, this Lucifer, like this is Satan and stuff like that. And they start attributing things to the name of Lucifer. So all that energy created a being that became Lucifer, and that being took on a life of its own.
I can see that too. And are you well versed in Aleister Crowley or his belief system?
Honestly, I know very little about Crowley. I was guided to pay attention to his time in the desert when he invoked Choronzon, which is one of the spirits of the abyss. When I first got into the occult, I stayed away from things that were mainstream. So Crowley was out. I didn't want to. It was kind of like there was so much sensationalism attributed to Crowley that in my beginning stage, it would be hard for me to filter out the bullshit from the real stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
he was probably MI6 anyhow.
Well, I don't know that about Crowley. If that makes any difference.
Well, I feel that.
I think that what I'm trying to understand is that "do as thou wilt" will be the whole of the law. It has been sort of misinterpreted too. And I was wondering if you knew what that was supposed to mean. But that's not your thing.
No, but like I feel like
I think it is.
Crowley's work definitely holds weight, because if he didn't matter, then my spirit, wouldn't have told me about him and told me to kind of, when I was being initiated into the abyss, the spirit, which was, Lilith that I was talking to, told me, yeah, study this about Crowley. And then she wanted me to actually contact Crowley and speak to him. So he was definitely on the right track. And I feel that he is foundational to magic in a sense where he made it popular to where it was more acceptable to practice.
Okay.
But he also did it. He also did magic a
Right.
disservice because he, like society around him made him look crazy and kind of made the things that he did pertaining to magic seem like really, really out there. And
Yeah.
granted, sometimes it may seem like that to somebody who's uninitiated. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I can't really blame those people.
Some of the nicest people I know are people who kind of look like Satanists, that are into the Egyptian Book of the Dead and Aleister Crowley. I don't say that to a lot of people because they think I'm nuts, but the nicest people that I know are like quote unquote Satanists. They're good people. Not the people I'm talking about in Utah, where whatever that is, they, use Satan as a scapegoat, I suppose, or, just these weird groups like the Process Church and all of these other cults that seem to ritualize children and animals and things like that. But people that seem to be well versed, like yourself, are they're some of the best people I've met, and I think it all gets a little misconstrued.
Well, I feel it's about educating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider myself a Satanist. I don't really put any label on myself except for demonosifer.
Right.
But there was a point when I did study different uh, versions of Satanism, and when you demystify all that, then you figure out, hey, you know what, this is just another belief system that can be used or misused. If you look at LaVeyan Satanism, um, just basically called out the church on their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about, hey, if somebody comes to hurt me, well, I'm gonna hurt them back, or I'm gonna hurt them before they do something really bad to me. It's not a turn the other cheek kind of thing, and it makes sense. If you go anywhere else to some belief system, or even if you look out in nature, if you don't bother an animal, for the most part, they don't bother you. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're coming to threaten them, they're going to do what they can to defend themselves, and that only makes sense.
Right.
And even with theistic Satanism, from the things that I've read, it's more about making yourself better, into a better person, and it's selfish to the point where you focus on yourself instead of just giving, like
Mm-hmm.
most right hand beliefs teach you to do. Because and it makes sense, because if you don't take care of yourself, how do you expect to take care of anybody else?
Exactly. Yeah. Great point.
So this whole satanic panic kind of stuff, the thing where Satanist is wrong or Satanism is extreme and stuff like that. Well, it's going to vary because it's a very um, personal belief system, whether you're an
Mm-hmm.
atheistic
Yeah.
Satanist or theistic Satanist.
On a controversial level, oh, definitely.
And that's really what religion should be. It should be a personal practice. You
Right.
should,
That's what I was getting at.
yeah, and it's just people have a tendency to generalize, because if you say this person right here did some crazy shit and then they're saying they're a Satanist, then all of a sudden every single Satanist is a crazy extremist, and that's not accurate.
Right. Well, we find that on both sides of the coin, right? So there's, in religion, and then in, the spiritual practices of Satanism, you get just bad people usurping the whole belief system and making it look bad. That's on both sides.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially those dirty fucking nonce Mormons, sorry.
Yeah.
But I think, like, at least in this country, the United States, where, most people are Christian, even though I feel like that's starting to change. It's Christian centric, so they're more likely to overlook the bullshit in Christianity before they are going to in another belief system.
Right. And they do. They do.
But I feel that it's just gotten to a point where it's come to a head. Too many people have been abused. Too many people are becoming enlightened. There's also a lot of, there's more access to information. So there's more stuff coming to light about the things that are being done by different branches of Christianity. And
Absolutely.
people are getting to the point where they're like, no, I'm not going to invest in this. Like, this is bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, it's so bad right now from every organized religion. All of their secrets, everything they've covered up the cover up. It's, it's a tangled mess. It almost sounds like government. Another tangled mess.
Yeah. Well, theocracy is a government,
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it comes to, your spiritual change, how do you feel? What is your idea of divinity? And let's say, like, God, like, how has your idea of what God or a God is changed over the years?
Well, I was almost atheist, really. I was agnostic and then had no belief in anything. I just thought everything was chaos. Then I started to shift again, back into feeling, after you have children, I have 3, give birth, that there's something else out there. There's something divine.
Your voice is kind of low.
There's something divine about giving life and giving birth, being a mother, and the idea of where does love come from? What is that? That's such a strong energy force. And so where I'm at now and where I've been for a while is that I just realize there's a creator of some sort. I'm really in limbo about my belief system. I really do believe that there's a higher power out there, let's say. I don't even know what I would call it. I just tend to call it creation. And I have just respect for it. And that's about it. Right now, I'm at a point where I was almost born again Christian. To go back, like maybe 3 years ago, I began reading the Bible and delving into it. And I got rid of my tarot cards and anything that was sort of, what they consider woo-woo. And now I'm leaning more towards like the sun is God, and we're just all sparks of that, coming from our life. Everything comes from the sun. And maybe the sun is God. I don't know. I'm just all over the place when it comes to that right now. I'm open to just about anything and learning as much as I can, like I said, and getting my hands on just about whatever I can and then sussing it out to determine. But I do believe that there's something a hell of a lot smarter than us that's out there sort of guiding the ship.
Well, to be honest, I think there are a hell of a lot of things that are smarter than humanity, even
Oh yeah,
things that
that's
are
what I
terrestrial
think.
to this planet.
I mean, I've had experiences, and when I was a little kid, I remember till my mom was driving us to church, and she was trying to convert her friend, and her friend was in the car, and she was talking about this, the church and everything, and really giving this her friend the spiel. And I swear to God, you guys, I was 4 years old, and I blurted out, "I don't believe in anything I can't see." And from that point on, I've been seeing things. I wish I would have never seen. I don't know. It's so strange that I said that, but I know that there's. I've had experiences with what people will call the other side. I've seen things that probably aren't of this world that seem very ancient. So I think there's a lot going on that we don't know about entirely, and a lot of players have their hands in this realm with things that are going on here. So like I said, I'm open to just about anything, and I've had experiences that I didn't ask for, that if I wouldn't have had them, I wouldn't believe in certain things. And so I know that there's things going on the other side that we can't see.
Right.
And I don't know if the veil's getting thinner, but it seems to be ramping up. At least even people around me have mentioned their dreams are changing. They're more vivid, lucid. A lot of people are saying, sort of having a spiritual awakening and being open to things. So I don't know if there's a huge shift going on, what this is. I don't know. I don't know.
I do believe that there is a huge energy shift, because I get a lot of people coming to me, they'll be like, do you feel that? Do you feel different?
Mhm.
Or a lot of people are saying, something feels like it's changed.
Yes.
And you do have a lot more people who are open to the idea of an alternative belief system other than either Christianity, Islam, Judaism. The big three are kind of being phased out, or at least people are taking a deeper dive into those religions to kind of, I guess, create a purer version of those systems. So yeah,
Okay.
there is definitely a spiritual shift going on. There have been more people, from my experience, seeing more things, and having either prophetic dreams or weird communications through dreams or visions. And
Yep.
I actually think it's a beautiful thing, because I feel like way back in the day, mankind had a better connection to
Mhm.
these entities. We walked side by side with these entities, and we had respect.
Brilliant.
We had love for these entities. And, suppose, different entities have their different time in the sun. Like if you
Mhm.
look at Egypt, these different gods were ruling according to who was the pharaoh. And I feel like the Abrahamic God, he had his time to shine,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
and now that time is over.
Hey,
It does seem, when you look at the history, of the world, and all of the archaeology and all the old, like the pyramids and certain buildings, it does, in India, it does seem like there have been different phases. Absolutely, right?
Hmm.
Many, many phases.
But it's just kind of like, in my experience, I've had things pop up that I wasn't even looking for.
Mhm.
I've had Ganesh pop up to me. Like, he's an Indian god, and I kind
Mhm.
of know about him, but I'm not familiar with the Indian pantheon. But he's just, like, these things just pop up. And so I feel like
oh,
the spirits that you need, or that are compatible with who you are
Mhm.
at a specific time, will find you and will guide you, but you just have to be open to them. You have to be open to receiving some kind of communication.
How do you feel about prayer? Do you pray or do you do anything like that?
I have my own
Or do you ask?
rituals. You know, it I don't necessarily worship images. Like Christianity makes a big thing about that, but there are different ways to connect with certain entities. And I feel like when you have a close relationship with an entity, what you do with them is going to be determined about how you create your personal relationship with them. So if you want to create a fetish to feel close to them, you create a fetish. If you don't need a fetish, then, like you do whatever, like you communicate in spirit. You work in spirit. Yeah, or like if you feel the need to give a sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't always mean blood. And if blood is involved, I use my own. I don't use the blood of, another person, or, I don't use children to communicate with other deities. If I can't do it myself, well, then I just move on to something else. Sacrifice includes giving time. Sacrifice includes, the burning of incense, giving of food, actually taking the time to get to know these entities. That's sacrifice. And so, when it comes to, prayer is just kind of like having a conversation. And I feel like prayer is more like a one-way conversation. And my conversations are not one way.
Okay.
So that's how I perceive things.
Do you think that there are deities out there that ask for real sacrifice, blood sacrifice still? Do you think that's a real thing?
Absolutely.
There has to be, right?
Historically, there were people who did human sacrifices, but the entities that I've contacted that were known to have, cults that sacrifice human beings, like they've never asked me for such things. So I feel like it was one of those times when people in certain cultures felt like that was a genuine thing to give, and there is power in those kinds of things. However, it isn't necessary. It really isn't necessary.
Who are your go-tos? Do you have like a top 5?
There are a few that are important to me. One of my very first entities that I worked with was Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, from the Egyptian pantheon. Very kind, very patient, very knowledgeable. If you are looking for knowledge, like something can be right in front of your face and you wouldn't see it, but like if you contact Thoth and say, "Look, I've looked for this. I need this information," like he'll show it and it'll be like right in front of your face and be like, "Why didn't I see this before?" Thoth is very important to me. Hecate, extremely important to me. She's like a mother, she's a motherly figure. She is very patient, but like not so patient where she is like coddling you, like if you're ready to do something, she'll be like, "Well, stop coming to me and start doing shit." Like you already know what you need to do. Stop asking me what you need to do. Then there is Lilith, who actually found me and started working with me. Our relationship has been up and down. It's
like a marriage.
Yes, in
Yeah.
fact, we are married. Um, and like we fight hard, we love hard. I've been threatened to a point where she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to kill your soul and have you walking around like regular human beings." And I'm just like, you know what? I'm speaking my mind. This is how I feel, and even if I have to catch that loss, like I'm going to tell you the truth.
Oh my gosh.
That's
That sounds like a husband and wife for sure.
and yeah, but it's these entities, when you learn about them, they're more like family. They're more
Mhm.
like family than things that you worship, and they're also more like friends. And
Mhm.
the things that you do for them, I don't consider worship. And
Mhm.
I compare it to having a human relationship. So let's say you have a friend that has a specific talent that you don't, okay? And you need something done. So you get your friend to help you out, right? Well, because you are appreciative of that friend helping you out, you buy them dinner or something
Mhm.
like that. Is that considered worshiping your friend?
No,
No.
that makes
So
sense.
why is it considered worship when we do the same thing for an entity that is labeled as a god, a demon, or even an angel?
Right. Well, I would consider it asking, like I typically ask for guidance. I don't, and I will give thanks, but I definitely am more like willing to ask for guidance instead of going into my own will, because I think sometimes our own will can get us in trouble.
Mm.
In the material realm, asking for things that really aren't for our betterment. It's just a want. It's not a need. And so I think that that makes sense, reaching out to them. And it sounds like, you're just looking for a little knowledge and guidance. And I can get with that.
Absolutely. And that's really all I ask, because like if you are constantly coming to somebody asking for things, that gets annoying. That would be
Yeah.
annoying if somebody came asking for you. And so when I initially work with an entity, my first thing is, hey, I would like to get to know you.
Mhm.
You know, and when you become friends, when you become close, and you're doing what you're supposed to, that entity is going to give you what you need anyway, without you asking. So there's no need to like beg and be like, oh, can I have $1,000, or oh, I need love, stuff like that. Like you'll get there, you know.
Yeah. How does that communication come through? Like, do you hear it in your head? Do you do writing? Like, how does that manifest itself?
It all depends on
Mhm.
the entity. It depends on your sensitivity. Um, it depends on what you're paying attention to,
Mhm.
because when you first start out, you may not be sensitive enough to like hear a voice or receive a vision, or feel the energy of the entity, but you know that they hear you when the stuff you ask for starts manifesting. Like you may ask for knowledge, and then all of a sudden you come upon a book that has the answer to what you're looking for.
There
Or
you go. Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of people don't understand that magic is very subtle. They see the stuff that they see on movies and they expect instant stuff to happen. And it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes things work very quickly, but sometimes it's you got to play the long game. But you also
Right.
have to be very attentive to your environment and what's going on around you. I've done automatic writing. I've
Mhm.
had visions during meditation. I've had visitations in dreams. I've had physical manifestations. Um, I've heard voices. I've had entities talk to other people on my behalf. Um, just too much to deny them. Like
Mhm.
where it's just like right in your face. If you doubt yourself, because you're like, oh, I'm hearing voices, I'm crazy. But then somebody comes to you and be like, oh yeah, this entity told me like XYZ to tell you and stuff like that. Like there's no way to like just deny that they're trying to communicate with you, you know?
Yeah.
But there are multiple ways. Sometimes it's even on an emotional level where you'll kind of understand what they're trying to communicate with you by the way that they change how you feel. And that is one of the reasons why one of the biggest rules about magic is to know thyself. Because if you know your baseline, you know when you're off baseline and receiving messages from something else.
Do you use the Ouija board at all? I'm thinking of Tracy Twyman and her communication with Baphomet and how she related to certain beings. Do you ever go that route or no?
I've used it like once or twice with varying degrees of success. You know, like it's not my go-to. And it's depends on who you're with. You know, like when I'm by myself and I tried to use it, it really didn't work too well. With two people, it kind of worked okay. But I feel like you have to be very careful about who you're with, because one of the people that I used the Ouija board with kind of said something disrespectful. And because I had a close relationship with the entity that we were trying to communicate, it didn't go awry. You know, a lot of people talk about how Ouija boards are dangerous and this bad stuff happened. Well, that's because you don't understand how to use a Ouija board. You're opening up a portal and basically inviting anything to come in. Like if you have a specific entity in mind and you have specific questions, and you're not going to ask something stupid like, oh, when are we going to die? Or something like that, then you're going to be fine. You know?
Right.
But, you know, these things, they get sensationalized, of course. Our society grabs onto the negative stuff because they love drama. And that's all people focus on.
Yeah. Well, this is a great conversation. I love what I'm learning from you. I really enjoy this.
I'm glad to talk about it. And I'm also glad to understand your side of Mormonism and even your beliefs, because I feel like no matter how much you know, you can still learn by talking to another person.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the culture, the color, anything like that. There's always something to learn.
Definitely. I agree. You know, I do consider myself a spiritual person, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just am really, for the first time in my life, I'm really open to everything and don't profess to know a damn thing, because the more I learn, the less I find I know.
Exactly. That's the same way with me. It's just kind of like when you think you're getting good at something, when you think you're maturing, something new comes along to just blow your mind and just blow you out of the water.
Yeah. Are you there, Lee? It's so quiet.
There's a little bit of background going on. I don't know who it's coming from.
Yeah, I haven't heard Lee, but I hear like I thought. Are you there, Lee? Huh. Maybe it's someone you brought in there. Zero.
I don't have anybody. It's just me.
No.
Nope.
It's so Lee kind of disappeared, and I hear like a woman's voice in the background or something going on, but do you hear? It's almost like breathing. I don't know.
Sounds like there's talking going on, but I can't make out the words.
It's not from my end. There's nobody around me. It feels like Lee just disappeared.
Well, I'm sure he'll be back. So let's just.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Are you there, Lee?
Yeah. Okay. We're going to start. It's all fascinating, right? With Zero's perspective, and that's what makes it all.
But see, the beautiful thing is that we can create a bridge. Denyse seems to have a, she still seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, influenced to have like a kind of Christian mindset, but still be open to listen to somebody else's opinion and say, oh, I can agree with that. And I feel that is how society should be, where it's like, okay, instead of focusing on what's different, let's focus on the commonalities and create a bridge through that. And through that, create an understanding and be like, okay, like we can agree to disagree sometimes, but we can do it in a peaceful way. And we can learn from one another.
Right. Definitely. I mean, I've learned a lot today. I really appreciate the time you're taking to answer questions from a novice like myself.
I'm used to it. Like that my whole thing is teaching. So I constantly have to figure out how to learn things myself. Then I have to learn how to kind of learn how to verbalize them and adapt that to whoever I'm speaking to. So the more people I speak to,
like the beings on the other side that you're talking to, it's similar, like you're paying it forward in a way.
Yeah. So that's also part of that sacrifice or part of the deal. What these beings want is they want their names cleared. They've been demonized, they've been vilified, and they didn't earn that kind of disrespect. So when you contact them and they do good things for you, and you find out they're more benevolent than malicious, then you need to get the word out, and they appreciate that. And so that's what they want more than anything, I feel, is to just be understood to a degree where they're not treated as evil or either just given like a fair chance, to prove themselves. And when I say prove themselves, not necessarily like they need to, but like just take a look at who this entity really is, give them a chance to speak for themselves.
Do you think a lot of them are, back in the day with the Greek gods and the Roman gods, are they the same beings that are kind of floating around out there in the ethers that you can talk to in the spiritual? Do they really exist, do you think?
Absolutely. I believe that you have different entities that go by different names according to the culture and times that they're in. For example, I've read in different places that Marduk is the same as like Jupiter or Zeus. We have Thoth, who was transferred over to the Greek and Roman society as Hermes and Mercury.
Okay.
So they're very real, and sometimes I feel that occultists lump gods together, and sometimes they go crazy with saying this god is also the same god, when, there's no real connection, even though they may have some similarities. But at the same time, there are different gods that, or entities that change their name over time.
Mm-hmm. Like Hecate?
I'm sure Hecate has a different name. If you study her epithets, she was called different things according to her aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And she was also lumped in with a god like Artemis.
Mm-hmm.
She's been lumped in with Lilith. And, that kind of like makes me, that's a pet peeve of mine, because I feel like somebody who does that doesn't take the time to get to know these specific entities or ask. Like Lilith is nothing like Hecate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would not say that Hecate and Lilith are the same. As for Artemis, the description of Artemis is not the same as what I've experienced with Hecate, So I wouldn't necessarily say that they are the same. However, if they work in concert, like Hecate and Lilith, they work very well together.
Huh.
So I can see that if two entities work well together, they may be lumped in together. And maybe that's how that got started, where it's like, oh, these two entities are the same.
That makes sense. So I guess we could probably wrap this up here. I gotta get going pretty soon.
Well, I was wondering where our other guests were.
Yeah, I don't know. They never, I guess they didn't show up or became preoccupied.
I don't know. Lee, you there?
Lee disappeared again.
Yeah, not getting anything from Lee.
Huh. Well, I don't know if I have anything else that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
So, are you involved with anything? Do you have any projects going on? Like, how did Lee find you?
I think it was through New York Patriot, Occult Rejects, and I did that show the other day. But I reached out and I was talking to New York for the past month or so, and somehow I don't know. It was strange because Lee came into my DMs and he was sending me a show to watch, and on Instagram I guess he followed me. I didn't know, and so I told him, well, we started chit-chatting, and I was talking about Tracy Twyman and Isaac Cappy thing.
Yeah,
and
hold on, listen.
Oh, there you are. And so,
have you got anything linked into?
Yeah, you sent a link to me. We started talking, and I said, well, he asked to come on, if I would come on a show. And I said, well, let me see how I do with New York. I've never done this before. And he's like, hey, we're good buddies. We do shows all the time. It was just kind of ironic. And he's like, well, let me reach out to him and see, and I'll join you guys. And he did. And we had a really good show.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting.
We did 100%.
So yeah, this is my second time doing this.
Nice. Well, I mean, both New York Patriot and Lee are easy to talk to and have a conversation with. So.
Oh, detail, mate.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. It's like we all have got a different perspective, but we've all got a different intention to relate back. And that's, to me, why it is most fucking fascinating. Because that attention is everything.
I think like everybody that met that's like attached to Lee seems to be very intelligent, but not to the point where they think that they can't learn something. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of like being involved with like the people within his realm. You know, I just met him, but it's an awesome thing. It's an awesome thing that is being done here.
Yeah, I was when I saw your podcast with him, and I went on, I think it was your YouTube channel. I found it and I started listening and just seeing your work, and I was just completely fascinated by everything you were saying and doing. It was one of the shows that just really knocked my socks off. I was really curious and really interested.
Thank you. Yeah, like it's a rabbit hole, and you know, when I first got started, it was kind of like I didn't know if I was going crazy or not. But then when I decided to open up about my experiences, a lot of people were having similar experiences. So when COVID hit, you know, when I first started on my path, I was kind of like you, where I was like absorbing everything, everything on magic. I was reading it, but then I started to kind of, I still had a Christian mindset to where it's like, no, I'm not really gonna deal with demons and stuff like that. Like I'll deal with everything else, but not demons. And then I just got to a point where I'm like, you know what? If I'm finding out that Christianity is not what I was taught it is, well, then maybe demons are not what they say they are. And that's what got me to even like try out the Goetia and even deal away with that, because like the Goetia, the classic stuff, uses names to constrain these beings. And I was like, you know what? If somebody put me in chains and told me to do something, I wouldn't be likely to do it. So why am I doing that with a spirit?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started kind of like just narrowing down and becoming the demonosifer that I am today, and getting to a point where I learn about the different beings and try to learn how to coexist with them instead of just like boss them around. Because nobody wants to be bossed around. And these things, they have ways of like, they may or may not do what you tell them to, but like afterwards, you know, you're going to have a target on your back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you don't find that you don't find that there's anything negative in this experience at all? No bad luck coming your way or anything like that?
No, don't get me wrong. There are dangers. There are dangers.
That's a good thing to talk about.
And I'm very open about that. Like it's not, it's a hard experience. Like it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because think of it this way. Doing what I do is like putting a house in Tornado Alley without knowing. So you build a regular house. A tornado comes and destroys it. So what do? You rebuild the house stronger to resist a tornado. And it's like every time your house is torn down, then you learn different ways of rebuilding the house stronger. And that house is yourself. That tornado is the left-hand path that teaches you how to become stronger as you go along. And it, like, there are a lot of people who fall to the wayside because they think that magic is a fad. They think that magic is a hobby. And it's like, no, you're taking these old ass energies, these celestial beings, these primordial beings of darkness and chaos and stuff like that, and you're trying to manipulate reality, and you're asking them to help you change. And if you're not ready for that, then you're going to be messed up. You know, I've gone through bouts of insanity because they will tell you certain things that don't compute. They break your perception of reality, and it takes time for your brain to mend. You know, there have been times when, because I had a good relationship with my spirits, they would reset me to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to take this information, put it on the back burner, and when my brain is ready to process it, that's when it will kick in. You know, it takes a lot of faith, you know, where like once you have a strong relationship with the spirit, you have to have faith in them. You have to have trust in them that they're going to help you out in difficult situations.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have patience. A lot of people don't have the proper respect, and those things that the people lack can get them into trouble. There are also entities that are very parasitical.
Mm-hmm.
There are energies, the entities that are vampiric, and they want you to enslave certain beings. They want to enslave your mind. They want to attach themselves to you, and that causes a change within your physical reality, because what is done on the spiritual side is reflected on the physical side of things.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, it's not like, oh, I get this power and now I'm invincible. No. You can still be killed by human beings, or you can still have accidents and stuff like
Right.
that. You can still be harmed if you don't know how to approach certain entities. And that's why, like, I always try to put emphasis on researching these entities that you want to connect yourself to and be connected with. That's why I stress forming a relationship. Because if you're doing something wrong, according to a book, well, the entity can say, no, I want you to do XYZ this way.
Mm-hmm.
And when you establish a connection, then you're able to do that. And then you're able to kind of progress further in your spirituality.
Did you have a mentor, or did you just sort of stumble into this organically and find your way through it?
Mostly self-taught.
Uh-huh.
I've had one teacher, and I didn't get along with him.
Okay.
Yeah, he was too. His magic was on point, but he was also a scam artist and kind of money hungry, and that's not what I was in it for. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I was in it for the spiritual knowledge, the ascension kind of thing. You know, not to rob people of their money or to appear like some kind of guru that has all the answers. So give me money and you can become my student. You know, I'm not in this for the prestige or for the mundane gain. And
Yeah.
when I talk to others, like I stress the fact that, like, yeah, I know money spells and stuff like that, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to teach you how to benefit yourself, how to grow your spirit.
Yeah, that's very much to be respected, because it seems like everyone is in that game right now.
Yeah.
The material game. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to put a roof over your head, but the scam artist part of it, you know, it just seems like it's everywhere. It's overplayed. It's too much now.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. I mean, my opinion, my honest opinion is, fucking, it's a huge psyop. Everything is a misconception.
Mm-hmm.
Like how they depict it bad, it's actually good. That's where we've got like zero, where people might think, oh, that's the bad path to take, but it's not. It's just a different way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different. It's different, and that's what those people who can't fucking understand difference, that's the problem.
Well, I'm of the mindset where, yes, I want to make my living, you know, as a full-time sorcerer. as a full-time, occultist, spiritualist, whatever you want to call me. But instead of like people feeding me money just because, like, to be in my presence or something stupid like that, it's like, buy a book for me. Learn something, read something. If you're going to pay me, I want you to get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the type of person, like, I don't want to establish a cult and then just have people feed me money for no reason. Like, I want people to benefit. I want us all to benefit. And that's not typical within the general public. It's all about me, and that's not how I feel.
Exactly. Well, it's like being a teacher, that's a paid profession. And it's not like they're going to get rich off of it, but it's a labor of love.
Exactly.
And there's a big difference.
You hit it right on the nail. Like, when you do it for money, the passion goes away.
Exactly.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, fucking hell, man! It's all so fascinating. Every single aspect. But I mean, what's the definition of bad, and what's the definition of good?
It's all perspective.
It is perspective, yeah.
So Denyse,
bad can be good.
If you have any like projects going on, or like any sites or any information on, I'm interested in learning more about like how Mormonism is connected to the Masons and connected to like Skinwalker Ranch and things like that. Definitely feel free to like send any links or anything that you have to my email.
Okay.
Because I would definitely like to talk more about those things.
Oh yeah, I would love to pick your brains a little bit too.
Hey, I'm available.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Good.
But,
awesome.
Yeah, Lee, I've got to get going. So should we wrap this up, or what do you think?
If you've got to get going, yeah, we can always pick it up another day, can't we?
Yeah. We got plenty to talk about.
Oh.
Plenty.
That is not a question about it. Yeah, we have got plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Haven't even scraped the surface.
Oh yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely.
No, Zero,
there's so
are
many
you
connections.
oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just want to say there's so many connections.
Are you on social media at all, Zero?
I actually detest social media.
Okay.
I mean, I have them, but I don't really post or do anything.
You're not there?
No, I'm not one of those people. But
is your email on your website or on your YouTube?
Yeah, it's derelictdemon.com, derelictdemon@gmail.com.
That's right. I remember seeing that. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm very active on my YouTube, where I see if people comment and I try to like get back to them and stuff like that. If people email me, then I'm up on that. So I try to make myself available.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, I'll be reaching out to you in the next couple days.
Looking forward.
I'll send you some links. Yeah.
Brilliant.
All right, and then we'll have to do this again, because the more I know about you, the more questions I can form.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds like a plan, Sam.
Yeah, it does. Nice one. Right. Thank you very much for Denyse and Zero for tonight. Fucking mind blowing.
Always
seriously
enjoyable.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Not a problem at all. Thank you very much. I shall speak to you both soon.
All right.
Absolutely.
Nice one. Nice one, mate. Nice one.
Have a great evening, guys.
Thanks,
You too.
Denise. Thanks,
All
Abel.
right.
My pleasure.
Thanks, mate.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.